In this section, we're going to talk about the principles of insurance. We're going to do an overview of insurance and some of the principles because we really can't deep dive and go through each and every policy and clauses. So the objectives here are you're going to know the basic types of insurance for individuals. We're going to know and describe the kinds of insurance available for business. We're going to outline the basic obligations of the insured and the insurer, and we are going to identify necessary parts of an insurance contract that we can see in all of the different types of common insurance. Insurance is a means for persons and businesses to protect themselves against risk of loss. In this section, we're going to cover the formation of insurance contract, types of insurance, defense of insurance companies to liability, and other types of insurance law topics. Let's talk about some terms. Insurance. I think we've all heard the term before. Its definition, well, it's a contract, and it's a contract where one party undertakes to reimburse or indemnify another against loss, damages, or liability arising from a contingent or unknown event. Then we have our insured, and our insured is the one who makes payment, called a premium, in exchange for a later payment in the event of damage or injury to property or person. We have our insurer, also called the underwriter, receives those premiums from the insured party and pays the beneficiary. That's the person who is named to receive the insurance proceeds in the event of injury or damage. In most insurance policies, except for a life insurance policy, the beneficiary and the owner of the policy are the same person. And then I use that word policy. So what's the policy? The insured and the insurer's express documented agreement. These are generally sold by either an insurance agent or a broker. And the difference between the two is an agent works exclusively for an insurance company, and a broker is an independent contractor who represents a number of insurance companies. The broker is the agent of the insured. So if you go to a broker, get me the cheapest car insurance, that person will go out and find the best insurance policy for you, and they work for you. The agent is someone who works, well, directly for the company. They'll be an agent for, let's say, Nationwide or Allstate. Let's talk about risk. The most important element of the insurance agreement is risk, the potential for loss. Through an insurance agreement, the insured party transfers his or her risk of loss to the insurer. The insurer distributes the risk among a large group of persons who share the same risk. If a loss does occur, one party is not forced to bear the entire weight of the group. This is how risk works for an insurance company. Let's put it in an example. For example, if you own a home, you face the risk of your home burning down. When you and other homeowners buy insurance to protect against the risk, you pay a relatively small amount compared to the amount received if your home burned down. This is because the insurer distributed the risk of fire among all the homeowners. So suppose that you have recently bought a home for $500,000. The probability of your home burning down in the next year is about 1 in 1,000, according to the research that the insurance companies do. So that's a low risk, but the consequences would be devastating, especially if you couldn't afford to rebuild. So instead of bearing this risk, you buy homeowners insurance. You pay a premium, let's say that's $1,200 a year. In return, if your home burns down in the next 12 months, the insurance company will pay you $500,000. The insurance company then what they do is they sell to 1,000 similar homeowners, expecting on average one of those houses will burn down. If all 1,000 policyholders pay $1,200, the insurance company takes $1.2 million each year, but expects to pay out only $500,000. It will put money aside, though, in case 2 houses burn, or worse, a fire gets a whole tract of houses. So they make out, right? They do this calculation. but also in that number is it must also pay overhead and expenses. Insurable interest is a requirement that a person who purchases insurance must have a personal interest in the insured property or person. A person has an insurable interest if he or she would be harmed by the danger that he or she has insured against. For instance, you could not take out a homeowner's insurance policy on my home or the motel down the street. If a fire destroyed either, you wouldn't suffer an economic loss. However, if you helped finance the motel down the street and had an investment interest in it, then you would be permitted to place an insurance policy protecting your interest on it. To insure property, you must have a legal interest and run the risk of a monetary loss. The insurable interest must exist both at the time you take out the policy and at the time of the loss. Coverage is limited only to the extent of that interest that you put in. So who regulates insurance? The regulation of insurance is left to the states. Every state has an insurance department that oversees insurance rates, policy standards, reserves, and other aspects of the industry. The problem is that large insurance companies operate in all the states, so both they and the consumers have to deal with 50 different state regulatory schemes that provide different types and degrees of protection. We have public and we have private insurance. Public insurance is funded through government plans, examples, Social Security, Medicare, temporary disability insurance. Private insurance plans are coverage types offered by public corporations or organizations, and those are the ones that we're going to be discussing in this section. The relationship between the insured and the insurer usually begins with the party seeking insurance making an offer to purchase insurance by completing an application with that insurance company. On the basis of the application, the insurance company evaluates the risk and determines whether to accept the offer. Generally, the insurance company accepts the offer by communicating its intent. And the intent or that communication is providing the date that the policy begins or the effective date. And that date is extremely important. This is the date that determines coverage. If an accident or loss occurs before the insurance company has issued an effective date of coverage, coverage might not be available. So in obtaining insurance, having and knowing that date of the policy is critical. Up next, we're going to talk about the types of insurance.